Are we ready? Okay. All right, we're going to open the meeting of the Zionsville Park and Recreation for October 8th, 2025. Because it's not in our bylaws, we are going to revert to Robert's Rule of Order, which states that the vice president is appointed to the president in the event of a vacancy or resignation. So I am the current president of the Zionsville Park and Rec Board. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Kimberly Lane.
Here.
Doug Tischbein. Here. Matt Milburn.
Here.
Chad Dilley.
Here.
Anna Shapaw not here. Kent Perkins.
Here.
Okay. Before we move on, I just wanted to, where's my note? Okay. Since our last meeting, Ryan Cambridge regretfully submitted his resignation as president of the Zionsville Parks Board in response to a request by the town council due to an anticipated change in the town's ethics or conflict of interest policy. The new policy would prevent him from continuing his service on the board while his consulting firm works on the Zionsville Village Gateway and Plaza project, despite the original contract being deemed free of conflict by the town's council. In alignment with a prior commitment to step down if necessary, he resigned to support the project's progress and uphold public trust. Ryan expressed gratitude for the opportunity to serve over the past 3 years. We've lost a valuable resource on the board as he was quite an expert on municipal parks. But we welcome tonight our newest member, Kent Perkins, to the board. And do we have any more introduction that's needed for that? Okay, so welcome. And we note that Anna has arrived. Okay. But we do now need to vote, have an election of the park board vice president. So do I have any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Doug Tischbein.
Second. That was really loud.
Okay, any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Doug being the vice president?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the September 10th, 2025 minutes have been handed out. Has everyone gotten a chance to look at those? Okay. We will vote to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the minutes are approved. We have time now for any public presentation or comments. Is there anybody who'd like to make a comment or presentation? Okay. There's nobody here requesting to comment. So we'll move on to anyone online? Okay, we're going to move on to staff reports. Jared.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Park Board. Just to highlight a couple of items from the Superintendent's September report. Maintenance created 204 work orders in the month of September, completing 204, sorry. 155 of those were preventative maintenance, while 49 were reactive. In addition to that, the team installed a memorial bench at Overly Warman Park, as well as 2 memorial trees. The Natural Resource Division held 3 public weed wrangles, 1 at the Zionsville Road Trailhead and 2 at the Overly Warman Park Disc Golf Course. We have our final public weed wrangle this Saturday at Elm Street Green from 10 to 12, if anyone is available to sign up and help us combat invasives in our parks. The Big 4 rail trail counter had 21,058 counts for the month of September, with 9,082 cyclists and 11,976 pedestrians. The Indiana Trails Program grant application was submitted to the DNR in time, so we'll await the results of that granting cycle. And finally, just wanted to touch on our Nature Connections program. This is a program that's in its 3rd or 4th year, and each year it continues to grow in our elementary schools. So Nature Connections is both an in-class educational component as well as in the field with the service project and field trip in the spring. It began at Eagle Elementary, and just in a couple of years we have expanded to Trailside and Pleasant View, and this year we will also add Boone Meadow Elementary. So working to expand this vital nature education component to our 3rd graders throughout all of Zionsville. And that is all from the superintendent report. Happy to answer any questions.
I was just really impressed that they completed more service orders than what they took in, but you corrected yourself. It's like, that's awesome.
Appreciate the expansion of the education program. We'll look forward to when it expands to Union as well. How far on the time horizon do you think it'll take?
Staffing's really the shortage. We're just trying to have
Okay.
enough boots on the ground to handle that many kids.
I think we're going to rock, paper, scissors over Union or Stonegate. Is that what I just heard? All right, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mindy Murdoch with the Director of Recreation Services report.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of September, we had 922 walk-ins to the Zionsville Nature Center. Just to give you guys an idea, so for the year to date, we're at 12,780 walk-ins. So we are on track to go beyond what we did last year. In addition to that, just a few updates on our programs. So our popular PEEPS, which is Preschool Environmental Education program series, has expanded. So we are now doing actually a series per month. So participants sign up and they get to do 3 programs throughout the month. They meet once a week. And so that program has been actually very popular. We filled September's, and we actually filled October's the first day that registration opened. So I'm sure everyone's waiting to get in for November's when that one opens up here in a couple weeks. In addition to that one, the Trail Hopper actually went out to our last, what we normally would do for park and plays at the Zionsville Farmers Market, but we did a Discover Your Backyard instead. And the naturalists went out to the market, and they had a great time with over 166 people that they got to participate in the activity that they brought with them. We've also expanded our preschool programs to Heritage Trail Park with the new greenhouse. So we have a new program called Little Sprouts. And so that right now is being run by me with hopefully as staffing and everything progresses, that'll go to somebody else one day. But for now, it's through me. So in September, we did a program on bees, and it was for a first one ever, very well attended, with 19 participants to that one. And then, of course, we had our Love for Lincoln brick pole, which unfortunately got rained out, and it got moved to the 14th, but was still very popular, with over 23 volunteers that showed up to help that and got the project wrapped up for what we needed. And then just last thing, because I know both you might have heard that our event coordinator, Megan Ray, and myself attended NRPA schools this year. So we did just register for that second year of that class. It's a 2-year program. So both of us, the beginning of next year, will go for event management for Megan and revenue management for myself. So, and that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you. And you always come up with so many creative ideas. I'm sure everyone
Thank you.
appreciates that.
I got
the fun
great
things.
staff.
Okay, on to new business. The Lincoln Park Historic Marker.
So one of the goals of the Lincoln Park Refresh Project is not only to update to today's standards, but also hold on to much of the history and charm that makes Lincoln Park special. Throughout the year, we've been approached by a group of citizens that care about the cultural and historic history of our community and would like to present the opportunity to host a placard in Lincoln Park. So much like along the Big Four, where the former train depot is now signified, this marker would celebrate the history of our rails in the middle of Zionsville with the former train depot that became Depot Park that became Lincoln Park. So highlighting that rail history, as well as on the other side, highlighting the significance of its name, Lincoln Park, and the events that took place on those grounds. So with the Park Board's consideration, we could fund this using some of those funds from the Love for Lincoln campaign and work with members of Sullivan Months and other historic societies in town to implement this placard onto Lincoln Park. So we would place this behind the gazebo, kind of towards the First Street entrance on the northeast side.
I just want to make a comment that I love this. I love the look of it, the historic feel that it gives you, and the traditional just element that it carries. And I think as we go through this refresh and we have a modern space, this placard will help be that reminder of the historical nature of the park. And so I just want to compliment the designer of this, and I think it's impeccable. So I would motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you for putting your time into this. It's lovely.
All right, next on the agenda is Resolution 2025-03, ZPRD Financial Sustainability Policy.
Thank you. So this is the same document that was circulated last month. There is one update. We did add an equity and access section to the policy. So that states that the Zionsville Parks and Recreation Department will ensure programs and services remain accessible to all residents regardless of income or ability. Fee assistance, tiered pricing, and scholarship opportunities will be developed and considered for programming to qualified residents. So making sure we capture that in the framework as we move forward with this consideration. Happy to answer any other questions related to the financial sustainability policy from last month.
Questions for you, Jared. When it comes to like your markers here of recovery, 0 to 20%, 150%, 200%, is that arbitrary or is that like industry standard? And if it's industry standard, can you remind the board where you pulled that from?
Yeah, so this policy was a compilation of several examples throughout the nation, reflecting on NRPA's data as well as other park systems around the country. So certainly not arbitrary, but usually they define additional segmentations, which might have different cost recoveries. But to simplify ours, due to our lack of aquatic facilities, a lack of indoor facilities, we streamlined our price points to what our offerings are.
What's our thought process about this needing to be like a policy? And I struggle with this even professionally. Sometimes I see policies come across my desk that like I don't know if it needs to be a policy or if it's more just like how we do business. Talk to me about why we as a board should consider like writing this as a policy versus like directional, this is just the way we do. Because I think my fear is when you put something in policy, you almost remove a little bit of flexibility when needed. I don't know that I see anything in here where I feel like we need the flexibility to it. Usually it kind of rears up when you don't expect it and then you're tied into the policy. So talk to me a little bit more about why you think this should be a policy versus just a standard way that we just operate.
I think the largest thing is to provide a guiding compass for operations to shift. You know, even if any of us were to leave the department, there could be a continuity of how the practices and procedures are performed within the department. So setting those milestones, and again, this document reflects it being revisited every 5 years. So as our department, as our board evolves, there might be some changes to this policy. But I wanted something more concrete and more transparent than just operations behind the glass doors.
Thank you.
Jared, one of the questions that I had specific to these percentages, has there been any consideration looking at, you know, obviously the whole concept of this is planning for budget changes, shortages in the future, decreases, if you will. Like, is there an amount we're trying to get to, right, to save? And does this get us there? What part of this, what percentage of this is that? So that we can then figure out what's left to solve. Because I kind of had the same questions as we look at the park impact fees, right? Like, all of this is great, I think, overarching structure and guidelines, but do we have an idea of what we're trying to solve for, and do these percentages get us there?
So the ultimate goal is to have an achievable benchmarks and guidelines within this policy. So if we were to set the expectation that we are going to receive and recover 50% of all operational costs, that is much more aspirational than what's proposed in this by just recovering 50% of recreational programming. So the goal here is to free up the finite resources within the general fund, the tax-based fund, so that those can be reinvested and supported into our maintenance and upkeep of our park system. So we're trying to diversify our operations so that we can sustain both missions, both parks and recreation. And for those that have been paying attention to the recent budget cycles, it's extremely difficult for all municipalities right now, but especially parks and recreation systems. So having this framework and having these obtainable goals are all the more important. So 50% of our recreational staff, that we are currently recovering around 21%. So that is why it's kind of a 5-year spread. But in order to reach that 5-year goal, we do have to change the fees associated with our program. So this is an attempt to publicly discuss the need to implement those fee increases and the justification of why we have to do that, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to offer that. And there's obviously a need and demand for these programs in our community.
Yeah, certainly. And so you think that these percentages that we've assigned to community benefit, for example, get us to where we need to be as we look at the reallocation of those budgets?
And that's part of that, the philosophy of the hierarchy. So 0 to 20% on community benefit, we shouldn't be additionally having fees associated with people just entering parks. But there are random occasions where, well, not random, there are seldom occasions where revenues can be generated from that tier of service. So an example, there might be a community event, which we're proclaiming as attempting to be free to the community. There might be vendors within that we recover a percentage for them being vendors at that event. That's kind of revenues that could be generated from some of these things that are still offered to the community for free. So, to that point, that is not the lever that we're going to pull to be financially sustainable. That is one piece of the pie, and that's the lowest piece of the pie. It's really as we move up from there and the benefit of our services become more targeted, that's where we recover more of our operational costs.
Something like the Eclipse in the park. It was a community event that you could still find ways to generate revenue.
That is a perfect example of a community event. So all ages, all abilities were able to come out of there. Versus a special event like our Trick or Trees, which is much more targeted to families and those that would trick or treat. So there's a fee associated with that to recover those operational costs. And as that service becomes more targeted, so when it's a class of 20 people and then it becomes a single dog park membership, those fees reflect the true operational costs and the recovery goals. And that framework is what's helping us pay for the staff that provide those services at the 0 to 20% cost recovery points.
I appreciate the transparency. All right.
So I'm looking at goal 3, item number 1, maintain a minimum 40% operational reserve for unforeseen circumstances. For example, economic downturns, emergency repairs to be held in Fund 2204 General Fund. Give us an approximation of how much did we allocate this year and how much have we spent?
So 2204 General Fund is the tax-based fund. So every year we receive our revenues to support operations. Every year that we underspend historically has developed cash reserves within that. So this is speaking to the cash reserves within that balance, which are approximately 112%. So this fund might be asked to support future capital improvements or replacement. So that guideline is there, so we don't go below that 40%.
We don't dip below, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
So if we need to hedge economic downturn to support
Yeah.
staff for a couple of years, we'll have that flexibility.
Okay.
I know I brought this up last time, and I think you said it's up for consideration sometime maybe in the 2026 cycle, but the impact fees, park impact fees, has there been any further discussion on that, and what's that looking like?
Yes, so every 5 years we update that plan, and that will be, the study will happen next year, and then it'll be adopted in 2027. So within the budget that was just passed, we have the funding available to support that study. So we will. And then, so that process, it invites community members, it invites the development community to meet at the table, define our levels of service, and then associate a fee that's agreed upon amongst the whole group. And we historically have been one of the lower park impact fees in the region.
Yeah, I think these things are all going to help us put some teeth around where can we generate this additional revenue. So this is great.
Comments?
Are we voting on this in November? Is that what I read in the paper?
Might have been in the paper, but it is tonight before the board to consider and approve. If approved, we will have the fee schedule before you next month, which would reflect these percentages.
I have one quick question. I'm going to claim new guy immunity if you guys have already talked about this. No stupid questions, first meeting. Jared, how do you envision, what's the process if the Parks Department wants to do something that diverges from what's in here? Say you're doing one of these second-tier events and we don't want to price it at 150%, or we can't do that, or it's not, not feasible. What's the, sort of to Chad's earlier comment, is it a policy or is it a procedure, and how do we handle the instances where
Yeah, so.
it just doesn't work?
Yeah, and again, the policy provides the guiding light, so we would structure the fees for any of those special events to the cost recovery goal of that percentage. So again, if the market doesn't support a $75 ice cream day, then that's not a program that's going to be successful. So it really is a balance of understanding our true costs to even perform, the special events versus what the market will support.
So you're envisioning this as we won't do it if we can't.
If we can't,
If the
yeah.
market won't.
So the evolution of this, and maybe we'll talk about this in 5 years, is how those programs that are coming in above their thresholds are subsidizing those that are below. And then we create the sustainable portfolio of programs that self-sustains and self-supports. But this is step one, just establishing those benchmarks that we aim for with our pricing.
Aim for.
That we aim for.
Or that we, so I'm kind of struggling with the same thing of I feel like, I think it's a great idea in principle, but I always worry, I feel like a lot of these things, the second you pass it, then something comes up that everyone agrees we should do that can't be done because we just passed a policy that doesn't allow it. So is it going to be, the average of those groups have to be 150%, and some can be 100%, and some can be or whatever section it is, or is it, because that seems like what you just said seemed like a more harsh, we're not going to do it if it falls below the percentage guidelines.
So I think we're dancing around two different topics right here, where one is setting the price points with the recovery goals, and one is the actual recovery goal of the policy. So our end goal is to recover 50% of recreational expenses by 2030. So, next year, maybe this wasn't in the policy, so this is an example of procedure versus policy. I've set the expectation that we'll move towards 25% cost recovery, and then 35, 40, and then we'll get up to 50. So incrementally increasing our cost recovery goals internally to meet that 2030 goal. So how we get there, again, sticker shock, that's the biggest fear. We set out these prices and people just can't attend or don't want to for the price point. So that's why we're really working with our partners that we have in the community, reaching out to the foundation, Optimist Club, to find ways to subsidize these outside of the tax base, because it just can't support doing that any longer to the degree it has. So this is all an attempt of positive momentum to become more sustainable.
So to be clear, the goal for, let's say this is passed tonight, the goal for tomorrow, if you're pricing camp or youth sports, is not necessarily to be at that 150. You're saying by 2030, all of the programs within that tier, the goal is to be recovering 130% or 150% of the cost?
So the price point we would place on camps or special events would be that 150%. That would be
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, November if we pass
Yeah, yeah.
the fee but that is the goal, because those incremental increases are what are going to get us to that 50% of
So
total.
the total won't be at 150% tomorrow, but starting tomorrow.
Working towards that goal.
Okay.
Yep.
I got you.
And truly, our summer camps, for example, have been our most, our greatest financial return, just because they've been so successful and we've been able to price them with the market and appropriately. So, I believe that's already operating around 130. So, yeah, so we're already at 150. So some of these price points won't change at all. We're already following our formula. It's just having a strategic look at all offerings.
Yeah, I think of the Mulberry Field rentals that we do for $5 or some really low price, considering it has lights and now it's going to have a concession stand. Like, that probably is not the right price point for that. So there's an example of something that would need to or should go up. All right, any other comment? Do we have a motion to approve this?
I motion to approve Resolution 25, or, 2025-3.
A second. All in favor? Wait, let me do a roll call. I'll do a roll call. Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Doug Tischbein. Matt Milburn,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Anna Shapaw,
Aye.
Kent Perkins,
Aye.
and I say aye as well, so that motion passes. Thank you, Jared. Now, we're going to have a special hearing for Resolution 2025-04 for the Lincoln Park Improvements BOT Award. This is a public hearing. No, I'm not going to have a public hearing. This is a public hearing. Okay. We're opening the public hearing. I've got proof of publication that this is a public hearing,
And if you could just note the time, too, for the
and
minutes.
it is 7:26. Are there any public comment? Nope. Closing the public hearing. And it is 7:27. Jared.
Thank you, Chris. So Resolution 2025, well, let me back up one step. So a couple of months ago, you might recall that we bid the Lincoln Park Refresh Project throughout the summer. Bids came in, we had 7 bids, and unfortunately, all were above our anticipated engineer's estimate and the allocations we had. So this board voted to throw out those bids, and we discussed moving to the build, operate, transfer model, the BOT. So in the month of September, on September 4th, it was advertised that we were releasing a request for qualifications and proposals. So that was to solicit proposals that could complete the project utilizing the BOT model. So that proposal process closed on September 24th at 3 p.m., and the selection committee reviewed 2 proposals within that and scored those. Let me read you my memo concerning this. A request for proposals and qualifications was issued on September 4th on behalf of the Lincoln Park Refresh Project, inviting qualified firms to submit proposals utilizing the build, operate, transfer procurement model to deliver specific park improvements. Proposals were accepted until 3 p.m. on September 24th. 2 proposals were received and reviewed by the selection committee. Each proposal was evaluated based on business structure, experience with public sector and park improvement projects, project approach, financial health of the firm, and required documentation and insurances. Following review and scoring, the selection committee is recommending Envoy, Inc. as the most appropriate proposal and firm to enter into a public-private partnership to deliver the Lincoln Park Refresh Project. So that is encapsulated within this resolution before you, 2025-04. So with your consideration this evening, we would enter into a public-private partnership with Envoy to begin scoping the Lincoln Park Refresh Project. While this document would be official, there would be a formal agreement that would come out at the tail end on this that you would all vote on again. So there's no price associated with this at this stage. That is what comes out of the scoping process. So our goal during the scoping process is to work with that developer and determine how we can still deliver the same project, perhaps by adjusting how the construction methods or the materials are, and then agreeing upon a final price that would be within that agreement.
Who takes part in that discussion?
So to date, the selection committee was myself and Doug. Moving forward, I would propose that Doug sit in on those meetings as well during the scoping process. And then obviously, as that agreement is formalizing, we'll have legal counsel between the two entities finalizing that document before it's before the board. Ultimately, the goal is to deliver the project that was advertised to the community for the price point we anticipated.
And that process will generate a guaranteed maximum price. So with this method of project delivery, there are no change orders. So once we enter into a contract, the developer is obligated to deliver the project for that price. So there's no surprises once that number is arrived at.
So the risk going forward is, once we go down this path, what happens if the price then is once again over budget, right? I mean, I think that's it, because right now we're shifting the risk to the contractor once you're at GMP, right? And they're taking the risk with that. But I think what we need to understand as a board, it doesn't mean that this project is not going to come in over budget. We're just shifting how we shift risk, right? Doug, am I explaining that appropriately? Yeah.
And there's still a contingency that's going to be built into the GMP.
Yep.
And that contingency is going to be controlled by us, not by the contractor.
Yep.
So, there's going to be some give and take, and we already know that. But it'll be as transparent, and everybody will see any price that they want to see, and it's just it's going to be a great delivery method, I think, to get back down to the price point where we advertise it to the community.
Yep. I like the delivery method. I like the transparency to be determined on what market conditions are. I mean, I think we all just need to be understanding of that. And Envoy's a great firm. They've got a lot of proven track record in the public safety sector with a lot of municipalities. I would trust that they're being a good partner. And obviously we have Doug, who's super knowledgeable, so we've got really good line of sight to that. And Jared, you are too. That's not to diminish you. So I support it, and I don't know if anybody else has any comments. If nobody else has any comments, I'll make a motion.
I just have a question. Has Zionsville used this model before? Are we?
We're in the process of
We're in the
using
process
it.
on
Yeah, so
another
for the
project.
wastewater expansion
Okay.
to the plant, that'll be BOT, and we're discussing it for a few other projects too. But it has been adopted by the town council, actually back in, I think, 2011 or 2012.
Okay,
They
that's it.
incorporated the statute to allow,
No,
the
I
town to
realize
use
that
it.
other municipalities are using this. I just didn't
Yeah.
know what our experience with it
We're getting
was
on
as a
board.
town. Yeah,
We're
okay,
the
perfect.
pioneers in town. But.
Yeah.
One thing to note too, those contingencies discussed, if those are underspent, those do return to us as well. So those aren't kept by the contractor.
Billy, did I hear first down there?
Yeah, make a motion to approve Resolution
2025.
2025-04 Lincoln Park Improvements BOT Award.
Second?
Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Doug Tischbein, Matt Milburn,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Anna Shapaw,
Aye.
Kent Perkins,
Aye.
and I, Chris Barksdale, say aye as well. That motion passes. We will close that special hearing and move on to Resolution 2025-05, the Wild Air Impact Fee Credit.
Thank you, Chris. So earlier this year, a proposal was encased in Resolution 2024-07, which was an agreement with the Wild Air Development Community that in exchange for their impact fees, they would develop 2 parks within the Wild Air community. One of those being the 30-acre Woods of Johnson Preserve, which is park board held, and the other being the Archer Park, which will remain deeded to Wild Air and its successors, but will be perpetually open to the public and maintained by those successors. So a public park without us having to maintain and replace and take care of it as much. But still qualifiers within the agreement that they have to keep it up to our standards, essentially. Remaining ADA compliant, having timely capital replacement and items like that. So throughout that process, which was passed by the board in January, the initial credit was $1,061,319 for park improvements totaling $1.2 million. So a great return on those impact fee credits. The Wild Air developer came to us recently with a miscalculation. They did not anticipate the 17 single-family homes that would be a part of the Cross Bridge Point partnership they have with another entity. So we do have representatives of Wild Air here if there are any additional questions, but the request before you this evening would be your consideration of Resolution 2025-05, which would repeal Resolution 2024-07 and readjust the park impact fee credit to $1,096,000 with $84. So that's a difference of $34,765. So that fee is associated directly to those 17 houses that weren't accounted for in the original proposal.
So 2 questions on this, Jared. One, was there a scope change? Like, how do we miss 17 homes?
I
Maybe
think
that's
there-
not for you to answer. Maybe that's for you to answer. That seems like a big miss, and I'm just curious, was there a scope change after the fact?
We'll have a representative Wild Air up here.
Sam, Ryan Wire with Old Town Companies. So it was not a scope miss. Actually, nothing has changed on the primary plat. It was a clerical miss of those 17 homes.
Okay, just like a calculation on a spreadsheet or something like that?
It was just not figured in because it was separated out for the IDD units, residents. That whole neighborhood within the neighborhood was just excluded.
Okay.
So it was just a miss.
And Jared, talk the board through, what happens if we say no? Like what, I'm curious on, and it's what, $36,000 or something like that?
$34,765. So the board retains the right to not adjust this. I believe the proposal originally was in exchange for the impact fees associated with this development that they would make those certain park improvements. So truly, I feel in good faith of partnering with the development community. It's to be strongly considered, but ultimately it is the park board's authority whether they credit or not.
Jared, when we did this in January, so it's been a few months, can you remind us if we were presented with the numbers of what it would be, or if we were just
Yes, so
or we were just asked to waive the park impact fees?
it was the calculation of the assumed total units, which was that 1,061,319.
So we're still getting more for our money than the impact fee would have been.
Correct.
That didn't change. We're still getting a good deal.
And if anything, costs have gone up.
I think the question is, would we have approved it anyway, to me?
Yeah.
And if we would have approved it
I
anyway?
would have voted yes, personally.
Anna would still have voted no.
That was my first meeting and my first no vote, so.
Which is like the first dissenting opinion in 2 years, I think, on the board.
Made the paper on that one, no big deal.
Yeah. I think I would have approved it anyway, as well.
Would there be any consideration from the developer to add $34,000 in amenities to the park? Because I think that was kind of part of the sweetness of the deal, right? Was look how much more we're getting versus what they're paying. And even though it's $34,000, we're nickel and diming, Mulberry Fields fees. So this is a big amount of money in that regard, and there's a lot we could do with it moving forward. So whether it's enhancing the park in some capacity or maybe paying half of it, I'd love to see some compromise on that.
That we already far exceed what the revenue coming in is for that, because that didn't even take into account some of the additional things in the spreadsheet that's on the screen. We're actually a total close to 1.6 million, but that contribute to the park areas, but it only totals what we agreed to for 1.2 of what the parks would have done. So total impact, because we will be adding in future phases the road that comes through there, additional parking for it. It's just not, I guess we haven't been incurred those costs yet because it's in the next phase of the development. So there are additional things coming. It's just not part of that 1.2 million calculation.
That makes sense. So the calculation still isn't final then, really, in terms of the financial benefit we're getting.
Correct. There's additional parking and additional street access through that you get the benefit of as well, that we will not be coming back for.
So to speak to that, with the exhibit that was in the original resolution plus this evening's, this is kind of what Wild Air pitched as their total investment to create these two parks with the required infrastructure. So looking through that, I only felt certain items were comparable to a park impact fee exchange, so that is what is highlighted in blue. So again, holistically, it was closer to that 1.6, but we're truly kind of only showing a 1.2 exchange for the just north of $1 million.
That's what I had remembered, that if we had done it ourselves, because some of these costs are, yeah, economies of scale and things that are already there and et cetera.
Any more discussion?
You ready for motion?
Ready for a
All right.
motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2025-5, resolution requesting the finance and construction of certain infrastructure or other impact zone improvements in lieu of and as credit against the payment of parks and recreation impact fees, and approving the PRIF credit agreement.
I'll second. Take a roll call vote. Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Doug Tischbein, Matt Milburn,
Aye.
Chad Dilley,
Aye.
Anna Shapaw,
Nay.
Kent Perkins,
I'm going to abstain, not
Okay.
having been here for the original.
and I, Chris Barksdale, say aye as well. So we've got 5 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. So that passes. Thank you. And Jared, are you ready for the Park and Rec Co-Hatch Memorandum of Understanding?
Yes, so with the financial sustainability policy fresh in our minds, we are looking at new ways to continue to adapt our programming and reaching out to as many partners as we can to help complete that mission. So one such partnership that has formed recently is that with Co-Hatch Zionsville. So Co-Hatch is a shared work, social, and event space provider offering flexible indoor and outdoor spaces, including a patio, meeting rooms, and gathered areas for professional, educational, recreational, and community use. Obviously, this aligns well with not only our mission of providing said recreational and community programs, but also assists us with a critical need, which is the lack of indoor space. So each month, Mindy comes up here and tells you the amazing programs we're doing, and every once in a while, if you flip through her report, it's not as exciting, but several events are canceled due to rain or weather. So this provides some resilience to, one, no, we won't have to cancel, but two, also having a backup opportunity should an event need to move. So Co-Hatch has been exceptionally collaborative. Neither party is looking to add fees onto each other, but there will be an opportunity for each venue to have their own fee set. So if we provide a program there, we'll recover our fee, and then Co-Hatch can also have one associated with that, whether through a caterer or something else. We've also began to discuss a collaborative marketing package for our wedding receptions. So Lincoln Park has historically been a place to get married here in town. We are looking at adjusting that fee to reflect the market value a little bit better after the refresh, but also, again, after your ceremony at Lincoln Park, you know, you're driving somewhere else around town, to have that opportunity right here on the bricks to walk over towards, to have restrooms. These are all benefits that'll not only make our reservation more enticing, but also support Co-Hatch as well. So we do want this partnership to be mutually beneficial, and I believe we've developed something that could benefit both entities. So with your consideration, we would enter into this MOU with Co-Hatch, again, non-legally binding. We can get out anytime, but it just eternalizes the partnership and the mission we're trying to accomplish together.
Okay, any discussion? We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion passes. All right, there is no old business tonight. That's good news. Any other board-related items? I don't believe so. All right, moving on to claims. Anyone have any questions or comments about the claims? Okay, can someone make a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Wait,
Yeah.
before we
Go ahead,
adjourn, wait, other board-related
Yeah.
items.
I just got a few things.
Okay.
That I want to talk to Jared about, and it's on project-related stuff. So I saw that the Beechwood Lane connector that we approved earlier in the year is up and running, and looks like they did a nice job, but we don't have anything else left to do with that, and everything is,
Correct, there was an outstanding permit with the permission of the park board. They filed that with the planning department. We had our town engineer go out and ensure that it was built to the spec of the stamp drawing, so that has been signed off and removed.
just a couple things. Mulberry Fields, looks like we're gonna get substantial completion 12/19 still.
Yes.
When does this get a C of O? When does that come in, before or after that?
That would probably likely be during final inspections, so that would be scheduled towards the end of the project, towards that date.
Because we got a final completion is May 1st.
Yes,
May
yep.
6th.
So, and that's kind of to hedge against any punch list items or the growing season if they miss plantings this fall.
Turkeyfoot pedestrian bridge, looks like a great job on that one. Right, you paid all your retainage?
No, we are still negotiating final quantities on that.
It looks like you got some retainage left over. Does that just revert back to a fund somewhere, or
Or which project?
contingency for the same one, Turkeyfoot?
Yes, it just would go unexpended. It's just sitting in the bank.
I think we had a discussion once about ballot locations on the north side for possibly not being in the right locations, allowing golf carts to get through on the bridge. Should they get moved, or did I mistake?
Yeah, so part of the punch list work, we had the bollards move, if that's, I think that's what you're asking. So those are at a width that wouldn't allow a golf cart, but are still ADA accessible.
CMP, it looks like you've got an opening in the middle of December. Are those structures going to be occupiable in December?
Unlikely. Yeah, I think that work would continue into January. There was some delay in the block, which we're still sorting out a potential second delay.
So that got pushed back to January.
Yep. But nothing officially has been moved until we know those timelines. Yep. But
And then it looks like, so we're not opening in December then, because it looks like, if I read these correctly, substantial completion December and then final completion in May.
correct. The park opening was not tied to either of those dates necessarily. So, for example, with the Turkeyfoot, our substantial was actually October, and our final completion was November. So that project wrapped up in August. It was safe to allow people to come out to it. So,
Do you have any concerns up at Carpenter about budget and unforeseen issues with price escalations, or?
no, price points are locked in. We are working actively to identify as many credits as we can and return those to the funds. Yep, it's been a very successful project so far, outside of that spring road that you might recall.
I second the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Doug, for all the good questions. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.